My name's Ben. I'm here with Stella Assange from the Free Julian Assange campaign at the Peterloo Festival in Manchester. Thank you for joining us, Stella. It's appreciated.
Thanks for speaking to me.
Bless you. In terms of what we wanted to talk to you about today, we wanted to get a bit of an update on where the campaign is, what the key blockers are now, and what's next, because we've heard a lot in the news and from the campaign about what's happening, but obviously things are fast moving all the time in a case like this, so it'd be good to get an update from you where things are currently.
Well, in terms of the political case, the legal case, the case is going to go to the Court of Appeal. And we don't have an exact timeline for that. The court will announce a hearing sometime in the fall. And what I always emphasize is that really this is a political case. So to an extent it's important of the legal timetable, but really the outcome of this case depends entirely on the political understanding, the public's understanding of what this case means and what it means for the public, for freedom of expression, for freedom of the press, and for our democracy.
So, in terms of, I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm a full-blooded journalist, but I've dabbled enough in it to understand what it's like to have your freedom of speech infringed. I understand very well what it's like to be threatened for the work that I've done. In terms of the understanding that the public and the political communities need to have, where would you say the problem is at the moment in terms of getting that understanding up to where it needs to be to fix this issue?
Well, it needs to be understood in its essence, because the problem with the way Julian's case has been painted is it has been buried under layers of complexity when in reality it's very simple. Julian is a publisher, and he obtained information through a source, a journalistic source, who gave him information. That information was in the public interest. It detailed war crimes, it detailed tens of thousands of civilian killings in Iraq and Afghanistan, it detailed corruption, and so he published it, because that's what true journalists do. And the US government is taking revenge, and it is using the courts in the UK in order to further its revenge in what is a political case, and the first ever case in which a publisher is being prosecuted for publishing true information.
Wow, that's pretty strong. So in terms of the sort of the immediate next steps in the case and what the process has got to, what can we expect to see next in the process?
Next in the process there will be an announcement of a hearing. The hearing will take place in the next few months. We don't have an exact date. And that hearing will have an enormous impact on the scope of press freedom in this country, because what's at stake is whether someone who was in this country at the time, who was publishing from here, who was publishing together with other newspapers, The Guardian and The Telegraph and so on, whether that person can be put in prison for the rest of his life in a foreign country. Julian has nothing to do with the United States. He's an Australian citizen. He was invited to the United Kingdom by The Guardian, in fact, in order to work on these very publications. And now Julian is facing lifetime in prison and has been in Belmarsh prison for over 3 years. He's not serving a sentence there. He is there because the United States wants to extradite him in what is an extreme overreach by the US government. And so far, the UK has been playing along.
Would you say there's some parallels in terms of the US government's policy on extraordinary rendition and what they've done to Julian?
Absolutely. This is one of the most sinister aspects of this case, is that Julian exposed torture, he exposed corruption, he exposed arbitrary detention, he exposed persecution, political persecution, and now he is the victim of that very treatment. And it is precisely because Julian published evidence of the US government committing crimes that they want to put him in prison.
We can hear the chant now.
Yes.
The crowd at Peterloo is going quite wild for this issue, it seems, which is great. It's good to hear. In terms of the obviously that's a message to Julian, from an element of the political class in Britain, from the public. What do you think we can do as a nation, as a people, to further the cause of bringing justice to the case of Julian Assange?
Well, the most important thing is to stay engaged, to come to the protest that will be on the 8th of October.
Okay.
It will be a historic protest surrounding Parliament.
Fantastic.
A human chain that will go over the Lambeth Bridge and the Westminster Bridge. Thousands of people coming together to give an unequivocal message that Julian has to be freed, and that the British public will not tolerate that a journalist, that a innocent man, that a freedom fighter will be treated in this way. Julian's torture in this country is a stain, and the public doesn't like it. And those in charge would prefer that we would not talk about it and forget about it, and that's not going to happen.
Okay. So, in terms of, I've got a couple more questions for you, and then I'll let you.
Can I say another thing?
Of course you can. Please do.
Another thing that people should do is contact their MPs and tell them that they want their MP to say publicly that Julian should be freed from prison, that he should be freed, full stop, and to take a stand, because the attack on Julian is an attack on press freedom in this country, but it is also an attack on British sovereignty and on freedom of the press in this country. So Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch and Reporters Without Borders, everyone, every big NGO is demanding Julian's freedom. And if MPs are not taking the same side as Amnesty International on this issue, what do they really stand for?
Okay, very good. So finally, in terms of if Julian were here now, with us, right here, right now, what do you think he would tell people about what he's been fighting for? What do you think he would say about what this festival is about at Peterloo? What do you think he would comment on about what it is that we, the left here, are fighting for in the UK today?
Well, I obviously told Julian that I was coming here to speak today, and he had a lot of curiosity about the Peterloo massacre. He had read a little bit about it, but like me, I wasn't familiar enough, as much as I should have. I wasn't as familiar as I should have been with what had happened here 200 years ago and how it led to universal suffrage after 100 years of a lot of fights. And Julian's work, I think there's a very interesting parallelism in what Julian has dedicated his life to trying to achieve, and the recognition of the Peterloo massacre that happened after many decades of trying to cover it up and to forget it. And that is that Julian, through WikiLeaks, has always been fighting for the integrity of the historical record, that we have to be able to know what the truth is, and we have to be able to be free to publish it, and to expose cover-ups. And it's like Orwell's dictum: he who controls the present controls the past, and he who controls the past controls the future. And Julian has been fighting to preserve the contemporary record, the historical record, so that we can decide our own future. And the March for Democracy here is a testament to how knowing our history can propel us forward to fight for our rights.
That's powerful. I like that. So, final question then. In terms of, and please, if you don't want to answer this, I fully respect that. In terms of the impact that all of this has had on Julian's friends, his family, his supporters, the people that have been working tirelessly for so long to free him, how is everybody coping?
Well, it's a hard struggle, above all for Julian, because Julian is in a prison cell in Belmarsh Prison, which is the country's harshest prison. He's there for no reason at all. He's there as a political prisoner. And it's hard for him day to day, obviously, because there's no end date. And he risks being extradited to the United States, where the US wants to put him in prison, sentence him to 175 years. So our family is committed and dedicated to freeing Julian, but we're not alone in this fight. When Julian was first arrested, we learned that there was a lot of support for him, and that support has only been building. And Julian and our family and his friends, we get a lot of energy from that support. And as I expressed it in an interview a few weeks ago, it feels like we've been running a marathon, but now we feel like we're running with many people alongside us. So, I will fight for Julian until he's free, and I'm convinced that if people really understand what's at stake and the torture and ill treatment that Julian is being subjected to, that they're on our side too.
Bless you. That must have been very, very hard. So, in terms of the best place to find information about Julian's case and to show solidarity and support, where should people go to find information about all of this? The best space?
The best space is don'textraditeassange.com.
Excellent.
There's a newsletter there that you sign up to, and that will keep you in the know of upcoming dates, of how to sign up for the Human Chain on the 8th of October, and any interviews I do and so on, they get sent via the newsletter, so that's the best way to stay on top of things.
Fantastic. Stella Assange, thank you so much for joining us today.